Hello everybody, good afternoon and welcome to the United Stand. This is your Erik ten Hag press conference for the game against Omonia FC, but of course it's not really about that. He's been put on the spot, he's admitted that Ronaldo's pissed off, but there's some context to that. He was asked a lot of questions about Ronaldo. Bruno Fernandes was there as captain next to Erik ten Hag answering questions as well. I wasn't impressed with Bruno's answers. I feel sorry for Bruno. He is not Roy Keane. He is not Gary Neville. He is not indoctrinated in the Manchester United way. And I felt that some of his answers were quite weak in relation to lowering expectations. You can interpret them how you like, but I felt Bruno Fernandes' answers were weak. We can't compare ourselves to Arsenal, Man City. We've got to work hard on ourselves. And if that means we finish first, second, third or fourth or lower, then, you know, that's where we're at. I don't think that's what you want from a Man United captain. I wasn't impressed by Bruno. But to be honest with you, what could Harry Maguire say differently? What could David De Gea say differently? I think they've almost got to lower the expectations because they've just been smacked up by Man City. Loads to get into. I think Erik ten Hag was getting a bit irritated. Good. I think when you've lost a Manchester derby like that, you have to be thrown to the wolves a little bit with the press. He's had a bit of an easier ride, and I think he got a bit of a harder ride today. It can get a lot harder than that if you think about the questions Rangnick and Mourinho and Van Gaal and Solskjaer have had over the years. So, you know, maybe Eric's starting to get, you know, the honeymoon's over a little bit. Maybe starting to get more difficult questions, which we want him to get. I mean, I want him to do well. I really do. The top's beautiful, says Just. Thank you very much. I want Erik ten Hag to do well. I back him 100%, but you have to face the difficult questions after a game like that. So lots to get into. We'll start off with two things in relation to the game tomorrow. He said he's going to pick his strongest team tomorrow, which is interesting because obviously we thought we might see some rotation. So he's going to go strong tomorrow. And also, there'll be no Harry Maguire, there'll be no Raphael Varane, there'll be no Donny van de Beek, and there'll be no Aaron Wan-Bissaka. At the end of the day, Times End says he's swimming in deep, deep water now, boy. He said about Raphael Varane, we should probably expect him back for Everton because he said he's expecting him back soon. Maguire a little bit longer, so Maguire's probably not going to be back until at least next Europa League game in a week's time. And then Donny van de Beek and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, he said, I've got no return date. I mean, I'll say it right here now. It's not looking good for Donny, is it? It's not looking good for Donny. I mean, what is going on with Donny van de Beek? We don't seem to get any clarity. He's not been playing to get injured, and now he's injured again. This is I think the fan base have given so much to Donny, and we really want him to do well. But it's getting to a point now, as much as you like the player, if you're not fit, and you've not really been fit all season, and then opportunities keep presenting themselves, like Real Sociedad before the international break where he would have played, tomorrow where he would have played, and he's not fit. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to get time where it's just, I'm almost at the point with Donny van de Beek now where I think it's over, and if it isn't over, it's a bonus. But I think the opportunities are just slipping away. As for Wan-Bissaka, again, never been picked. Ten Hag wanted to sell him. Another player that's not playing but's injured. What is it about Man United that accumulate these Phil Jones type players who don't get picked but spend ages injured? Like Brandon Williams and Twansebi, they're injured as well. Like there's opportunities for these players and they can't get fit. Now I'm not saying that they're faking injury, but why do we accumulate so many players that aren't first team players that you might want to use when the first team don't perform and then they're never fit to take their opportunity? It's weird. And it's been going on at United for a decade. There's something really odd about how we just collect injury-prone players who aren't even first teamers. We've got to clear them out. Wan-Bissaka's got to go. Brandon Williams, Axel Twansebi, Donny, Phil Jones. I mean, Phil Jones is still earning 100 grand a week. Where is he? Like, he's bloody injured again, isn't he? I don't think he's been fit since last season. It's very frustrating. But look, Varane looks like he'll be all right for Everton and Maguire maybe next week. So that's where we are with that. And Ten Hag is going to pick a strong team. So, yeah, I mean, I'm disappointed about the Donny van de Beek thing. But, look, let's talk about the main things that were discussed. I'm just going to go through it chronologically. So he was asked about a response to Sunday. How does he feel about Sunday? He said, look, as always, we've analysed it. It's a reality check and we've got to take the lessons and we've got to move on. He was also asked about, there was a very interesting line that he said, Erik ten Hag, actually. He said that we thank Pep for the lesson and we've got to learn from it, which I think is lost in translation. It's not like he's saying, thank you, Pep, thanks for smashing us, Pep. But I think what he was basically saying there is, and I quite liked that line, is that whether we thought we were on the road to success or on the road back or anything like that, we're definitely not. And Pep Guardiola's Man City exposed how far away we are from where we want to be. So in a way, it's like some of you said on the watch along on Sunday, I'd rather we get absolutely destroyed than lose 1-0 and find out how far we are away so we can do something about it. And I think that's maybe what he's saying in relation to that. There's a lot to talk about Ronaldo, but I want to talk about why Sunday happened first. This was asked about Erik ten Hag, and he said, look, in a process, it's not always going to be good results. You will have setbacks. It was a bad day at the office, but what we cannot accept is our performance on Sunday. And I like that. You know, I read things back sometimes, and like you can watch a clip from a film a million times, and every time it will make you get goosebumps. It's like Solskjaer's winning goal in '99. It will never fail to give me goosebumps. And you know when Bambi died, it gives me goosebumps. No. When there's certain I love certain films, but that is I like that from Erik ten Hag. When I read that back, that's the sign of a good manager, when they're connecting with you and making you feel, that's what I want to hear from my manager. So look, why it happened on Sunday, in a process, you will get setbacks. We know this. I've spoken about it with you. You've spoken about it with me. We know we're not going to win every game. We're not going to do an Arsenal. We're not doing a Man City. We're going to be on a roller coaster, and Ten Hag acknowledged that. We're in a process. There will be some setbacks, and it's a bad day at the office. But he follows that up with, what we can't accept is our performance. So what he's basically saying is, we can lose games. We will lose games. We will have bad days at the office. That will happen. I know it. You know it. He knows it. You can't have the squad and the season we've had last year and then not expect to lose some games. That will happen. But we can't accept that performance on Sunday. And I think that's the thing that's really resonates. He will not accept it. There's some interesting points from Bruno, but I want to just go through what Ten Hag said. He was asked about... should we go to what Bruno said? No, we'll talk about what he said about Casemiro, because I think this is quite a big thing as well. On Casemiro, he basically said, and we're going to talk about Ronaldo after the Bruno stuff. So Casemiro, what's happening with Casemiro? He said, look, we have to win all our games. We play our best team. I want a competitive culture at this football club. But on Casemiro, it's nothing more sinister than Scott McTominay. The only reason Casemiro's not been playing is because of Scott McTominay. He said, when Casemiro came into the club, we won 5 games out of 6. That is why Casemiro's been on the bench, because Scott McTominay's been playing in a winning team. So it's logical that I stick with a winning team. And that's his explanation. Whether you agree with that or not, I mean, I don't agree with it. And I've said it since we beat Liverpool, really. I said, I think you can change a winning team. I'm a firm believer that you can change a winning team, because what if we win at the weekend without Rafael Varane and we play Lindelof and Martinez? And then the next week, am I going to stick with Lindelof and Martinez? Some of you will. I won't. I will bring Varane or Maguire in, because I think that that's a better balanced centre-back pairing. So I think you can change a winning team. We've got a manager that probably doesn't. That's fine. So he explained that. You've got to take that. I've got to take that. You've got to take that. It's not a reason to be critical of your manager, because he's being honest and he's explaining it. Just because he's got a different ideology to you, he's the manager of Manchester United. You've got to respect it. He has sat there and publicly said twice now, the reason Casemiro is not playing is not because he's a bad player, but because Scott McTominay's been playing well and we've been winning. So I've stuck with that team. That's my logic. Whether you like that logic or not, what do you want to do? Sack him? You know, he's being open and honest. I mean, we've had managers at Man United. Solskjaer wouldn't even answer it like that. He wouldn't. So he's honest. I respect it. He's stuck with McTominay. It was always going to end badly. It has ended badly, and now it's Casemiro's chance. And he went on to say that, look, I'm absolutely convinced he will play a really important role for Manchester United. Do you know how Ten Hag does that? I'm going to try and do it. So we talk about Casemiro, yeah? And I'm absolutely convinced he will be a really important player for Manchester United. I can't do the Dutch, but I can do the little thing. So, yeah, he's going to be a really important player for Manchester United. Casemiro is going to start tomorrow. If he plays well, Casemiro will start against Everton. So the Casemiro journey starts tomorrow, and I think it will stay. I think he's been very, very clear that Scott McTominay's been picked because we were winning. That is over now. I think Casemiro will get his chance, and we'll go from there, yeah? I can't stop doing it now. Right, let's go. There's loads to talk about Ronaldo, but we will go... We will go back to Ronaldo in a minute because I want to talk about what Bruno said, because otherwise we're going to drift away from the derby to talk about Ronaldo. And there was a lot of talk about Ronaldo, and Ten Hag did swear. He said pissed off. So what? I say a lot worse. I'm not. You can't have a go at a manager for saying pissed. Anyway, so we go to Bruno, and Bruno was asked about. I really just think a lot of Bruno's was just, you could almost summarise everything Bruno said with, it was just noise. It was just, we go again. Because I'll go through it, you make your own minds up, because that's what it's all about, yeah? So Bruno, he said, there's been a lot of positivity about the team so far. But what about Sunday? He was asked, basically. And he said, look, there's a long way to go. We must do better. Just noise, isn't it? We go again. But he was then asked about the inconsistency of the team. And I liked this question because Bruno Fernandes has been at the club a long time. And basically the question was this. When you first came into the club, you did quite well. Obviously last season was bad. This season, some good results, but some really bad results like Brentford and against Man City. Why is there inconsistency at Manchester United? Which I think is a good question. And he said that this is a project. This is Bruno's words. This is a project. We have to set a standard, a high standard every game. For 4 wins, we were good. Now we've had a setback, but it doesn't change what we want to do. It's a process, and we need time. We have to focus on us. We can't compare ourselves to others like Arsenal and Man City. We've got to look at us, not think about Arsenal. We've got to do the best we can, whether that's first, second, third, fourth, or lower. Now, that's just noise to me again. It's basically could have summarized. He could have just said we go again, because really, project, standards, 4 wins, setback, doesn't change what we want to do. Process, need time, focus on us, can't compare ourselves to others, have to look at ourselves. Next, not think about Arsenal, do the best we can, and see where we end up, whether that's first, second, third, or fourth. I like Bruno Fernandes. All the best from us, says AC Squared. Thank you very much. I like Bruno Fernandes, but I was almost screaming at the press conference when he was saying it. When he said we can't compare ourselves to Man City or Arsenal, we don't do that. We've got to focus on us and see where we end up. I was like, no. That's not what a Manchester United player has to say. Forget captain. That's not what a Man United player has to say. Like, every competitive person I've met or observed will compare themselves to Man City. That's the Man United way. You can't sit there as a Man United player and say, we can't compare ourselves to Man City and Arsenal, we've got to focus on us. Because then the standard comes from within the training ground. It comes from within Carrington. And the level's not good enough. If you're only focused on yourselves, you're only as good as your best player, and you're all as bad as your weakest player. And we've got lots of weaknesses. So I just know what Gary Neville or Roy Keane or David Beckham or Wayne Rooney would say. They would be looking at Liverpool, they would be looking at Man City, and it would be eating them up inside. And in training every day, they'd be going on and on about it, saying, we've got to be better. That's the standard. That's the standard. So when Bruno says, we've got to set the standard every game, but then we can't focus on others, I think that's a big mistake. I think it's a big, big mistake. If I was at Manchester United and I was blessed enough to be good enough to play for Manchester United and I was turning up to Carrington every week, I wouldn't shut up about Man City. I wouldn't. I'd be like, that's the benchmark. Forget the benchmark in here, because it will always be too low. If we try and get our standards up and focus on us, we're always going to be too low from Liverpool and Man City. We've got to aim for them and go beyond that. That's the standard. So I actually think Bruno would have answered the question better if he'd said, look, that's the standard on Sunday. Man City is the standard. We're miles off. We all know it. We're miles off. That's the standard. And we want to go beyond that because we want to be better than them. So actually, Man City's not the standard. The standard we want is better than Man City. And we're miles away. And we know that. And we've got to look at ourselves collectively. And we've got to work harder and be better because we're Manchester United players. And that's the standard. The standard isn't here anymore. The standards have dropped. Winning 4 games in a row means absolutely nothing if you get destroyed by like we did by the best team in the country at the moment. So that's the standard. We're miles off. I don't like it when Bruno said we can't focus on Man City or Arsenal. Of course you bloody can. That's the top of the league. What did Sir Alex Ferguson used to say? What did Sir Alex Ferguson drill into the team? I remember Gary Neville talking about this. Second place is nowhere. Second place is failure. And now we've got this. Now we're talking about we can't focus on those ahead of us. We've got to focus on us. Well, if you don't focus on those ahead of you, how are you going to bloody catch them? We're never going to catch Man City by living in a silo, just focusing on ourselves. We've got to. We've got to. The standard is set. When we were top of the league, do you think Liverpool would just go in? Let's just focus on what we can do. If it's first, second, third, fourth, we'll see where we are. It's great. No, you've got to focus on everything else. So I disagree with that. I felt that I think the mentality. Watch the show this morning. I'm not going to repeat it, but there's a leadership and mentality issue at Manchester United. We saw it in the Manchester derby. We saw it against Brentford. We've seen it for the last 18 months. It's still there, and I don't think that you can just sit there going, we've got to focus on ourselves. And he actually did say the words. I can't remember exactly, but he actually did say we've just got to do the best we can. And if that's first, second, third, fourth or lower, we'll have to wait and see. What mentality is that? Now, I've probably got that completely, the wording wrong. But he did say we've got to do the best we can. And he did mention first, second, third, fourth, fifth or lower. That's not... I'm sorry. Get your coats, get your bags, go to the airport... Take everyone else with you. That's not the mentality we can have at Man United. That's not Manchester United. Try the best you can and see where you finish. It's not the motto of Manchester United. I'm sorry, it's not. It might be at other clubs. This ain't a school sports day where everyone wins, even if you come last. Try the best you can and see where you end up. No, forget about it. It's not. That's not Manchester United as far as I'm concerned. And I don't think it's Manchester United as far as many of you are concerned. And I don't think it's Manchester United as far as Erik ten Hag is concerned. If we're just going to try our best and see where we end up, then Ten Hag's not going to last and it'll be another manager. The standard has to be first place. Even if it's unachievable, that has to be it. Because the minute you say we're not good enough to finish first or second, you will not finish first or second. We have got to set the standard. And that's the belief. That's the belief problem. If that mentality is in that dressing room, we don't focus on anyone else. We focus on ourselves. We try our best and we see we end up. No wonder we're losing like we did at the weekend. If you walk onto the pitch with we'll try our best, we'll focus on ourselves, you are going to get smacked up. You've got to go on that pitch and feel like you believe it. You've got to go in that boxing ring and feel like you've got a chance. Otherwise, you're going to get beat up. And I think United are just setting their standards from within. And actually, they need to look externally and they have to go, look, we're going to the Etihad. We are the underdogs. But we ain't going there to get beat. We're going there to win. We're going there focused. We're going to go there to show everybody how we're improving. There's a mentality issue at Man United. Surely Ronaldo, Donny and Casemiro play. What a community you've built, Mark. 25 months of member, says Oscar. Donny's injured, mate. Hi, Mark. I personally think Sancho is a really good option for us. He's very technical and can keep the ball in tight spaces, says Joey. Look, we've got some good players, Joey. We're not talking about talent. We're talking about mentality. We're talking about consistency. And I'm fed up of it. And we've got to improve that. And it worries me that we're not looking at external factors and we're focusing on within. We need to have a look at the standards outside. We need to learn you got to learn about the standards outside. If you're in charge of a Formula One racing team and everyone says, look at Ferrari, look at Red Bull, and you're going, we're not going to look at them, we're focusing on our own problems, you ain't going to bloody learn, are you? You can learn from observing everybody else as well. Which is why Erik ten Hag said, thank you, Pep, for the lesson, because he knows what he's on about. Was there anything else from Bruno before I move on? He was asked about the failings of the weekend. He said, look, we had a meeting on Monday. We saw the mistakes. 3 goals were scored on the counter from a team that's not really that counter-attacking. We've seen it. We've got to not repeat it and get back to winning ways. And he said that there was... where did I'm sure I wrote this down. Yeah, there's something else. So we've got to get back to winning games. Bruno was then asked about a lack of belief, and he said, confidence has to grow. We've got to believe in the process, get a good result tomorrow, and we'll be back on the road. You know, it's just we go again, isn't it? It's we go again, because ultimately, what more can be said? You know, United don't want a Roy Keane on their hands. They don't. I mean, if Roy Keane was still playing and he'd been asked those questions about what Bruno had been asked, God, sit back and have your popcorn ready, because he would go in. Roy Keane would go in and he'd get away with it. He would. He's done it loads of times. I remember us getting knocked out of the Champions League in the early noughties, and he'd come out, he'd just literally do it straight after the game. He'd be spoken about it. He'd say, well, this is what happens when you don't invest in the squad. We should have added a couple of players in the summer. You know, we win the league and then we don't strengthen, and then we're out in the Champions League. You know, Roy Keane used to do those interviews. Like, you wouldn't believe it if you're not that old. Like, you wouldn't believe what Roy Keane would come out and say after games when we've been knocked out of the Champions League. He'd just say what you think. He'd go, yeah, well, you know, maybe we should have bought a couple of players in the summer. You know, we're not going to compete with the best when they're improving and we're not. We can win the league. We can win the league by 10, 20 points, but in the Champions League, you've got to invest. And he knew. And, you know, I'm not saying we need Roy Keane. They don't exist anymore, but we need a little bit better than we don't focus on our external things. If we win tomorrow, we're back on the track. And we're not back on the track if we win tomorrow. We're not back on the track tomorrow. We're not back if we win against Everton. We know we can win 3 or 4 games. We're not back on the track until we go to Anfield, the Etihad, Emirates, Stamford Bridge, and give them a game of football. That's when we're back on track. You know, stat padding against everyone outside the top 6 is not United. We've got to start competing with the top 6. That is the standard. And to do that, you've got to acknowledge that, haven't you? And he's not Roy Keane, Ezra. And I like Bruno. But I don't think he's a captain. I don't think Bruno Fernandes is a captain of Manchester United. I don't think Harry Maguire is. Obviously, Ronaldo's not going to get it. So therefore, I don't think we've got a captain. I think this is the problem. How can we stop folding like a pack of cards on a football pitch without a leader? We haven't got a leader, and we need to create one or find one, because at the moment, I think Ten Hag, everyone's in tune with him. I still think the players are struggling from an identity crisis. I don't think they resonate with the fan base in what they say. They come out with stuff and it sounds like we go again, we're trying our best. That's not what you want to hear from a Man United captain. When you think about Brian Robson, the Roy Keanes, the Vidic, you know, we need a captain that's in tune with the fan base. We need a captain that comes out and says, that wasn't good enough at the weekend. Ultimately, we've all got to take it on the chin. It's totally unacceptable. That's the standard, and we fell well short of it. We want to be better than Manchester City. That's what drives us, and we were miles off at the weekend. You can't be coming out with, well, if we win on Thursday, we're back on track. We're not back on track because we beat some pub team from the Europa League on a Thursday night. We're back on track when we're playing Juventus or Bayern Munich on the Wednesday night, and we go to their place and smash them. We might be back then. You don't bounce back from getting stuffed by Man City by beating Omonia FC. That's not back on track. So the mentality needs to be higher. I feel that these players have given up on titles and the Champions League, and they're actually starting to believe that we are 4th, 5th, 6th best team in the league. That, you know, if we win a Carabao Cup, it's success. The standards have dropped so far under the Glazers that the players believe the standards now. And maybe they've got every reason to believe it. You know, maybe they go into training and they see the structure of the club and they know more than we do that this club's never going to win a league. Maybe the players are just realists. Maybe they see how that club's run and they know we've got no chance of winning the league. But it's a worrying publicity stunt when they're reflecting that publicly. Aston Villa going to beat you, says Travis. We're not playing Villa for ages, so they can get in queue. Anyway, let's talk about what Ten Hag had to say about Cristiano Ronaldo. So there was loads of questions about Cristiano Ronaldo at the end of the interview, which is an improvement because obviously last week we had loads about Harry Maguire, so at least there was nothing about him. Give him a bit of a rest. But he was asked about Cristiano Ronaldo, and he was the question was basically, Ronaldo didn't play at the weekend. Do you think he'll leave in the January transfer window? And, you know, Eric was quite... you could see he was getting quite frustrated about the Ronaldo questions. And he said, look, I can't see how him not coming on in a Manchester derby when we're 4-0 down has got anything to do with transfers in January. He didn't come out on Sunday. He didn't come on Sunday out of respect, as I've already said. And we don't need to go over that, because whether you believe it or not, whether you agree with it or not, Erik ten Hag, again, has been very honest, like he was about Casemiro, and he has said, I didn't bring Cristiano Ronaldo on out of respect because he's one of the greatest players that's ever played the game, and bringing him on when the game is dead for 20 minutes just didn't seem worth it when Martial needed minutes. So I went with Martial. He's explained it. I don't know whether I agree with it or disagree with it, but he's explained it, so I respect it. It's absolutely fine. He said, he was then asked, well, what's the point in keeping an unhappy player at the club, Cristiano Ronaldo? And he said, he's not unhappy. He's happy. He's training well. Everyone's training really well. He's not unhappy in relation to training and how he is around the team. He's happy. He then went on to say, obviously he's not happy. He's not in the team. When he's not playing, he gets pissed off. That's normal. And effectively, then he just went through a process of being asked loads and loads and loads of questions about Cristiano Ronaldo, to which I think he started to get quite frustrated. The Ronaldo situation is, in many ways, it's somewhat boring, isn't it? I mean, we talk about Ronaldo quite a lot, but I don't think there's a lot to add to the question. He wanted to go in the summer. United said no. He stayed. He doesn't get picked. He'd probably want to go in January. Erik ten Hag's situation with Ronaldo is confusing. I think he always really was excited about using the player. I think he got disappointed when the player wanted to go and started planning without him, and then he stayed. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know that ten Hag himself knows what he wants to do with Ronaldo. I'd say at this moment in time, I think when Erik ten Hag took the job, he saw Ronaldo as the striker that he was going to build the attack round. Then when Ronaldo wanted to leave, I think he was like, well, he's probably going to leave. I'll build a different route. And then I think he quite likes the different route. And the uncertainty around Ronaldo is making him uncertain about how to use Ronaldo. And we are at an impasse. I've got to agree that the situation, I understand why people are asking questions about it, because he wants to go, United won't sell, Ten Hag won't pick him. That's, sometimes in football you can see a solution. Player wants to go, manager wants him to go, club wants him to go, he's going to go. This situation's weird. Ronaldo wanted to go, club wouldn't let him go, Ten Hag, question mark, whether he wants him to go or not. I personally think that if we had a replacement for Ronaldo, Ten Hag would do the deal. I think Ten Hag's protecting himself and the club by saying, I can't let Ronaldo go when Martial's injury prone and Rashford's not a striker. I need to keep him. But Ronaldo's not happy being a backup. So I think the situation is fragile. But on the other hand, I also think the situation is flexible in the sense that maybe Ronaldo starts tomorrow and scores. I mean, let's not pretend Ronaldo's playing well. He's not the Ronaldo of last year. He's out of form as well. So I think with Ronaldo, I mean, in some ways, it's similar to Donny on a much higher level, that over the next month, basically, when we break for the World Cup, it'll be interesting to see how many goals Ronaldo has scored and how many games he has played. Because if he spends most of the next month on the bench, then the problem's going to get bigger. If he spends most of the next month on the pitch scoring goals, then the problem will probably disappear. So I think you've just got to observe it and see how it develops. But I mean, he was asked about strikers and he was asked about what he expects from a striker. And he said, look, I want them to be productive and score goals, but the whole team has to defend and the whole team has to attack. It's 11 attackers when you've got the ball and it's 11 defenders when you've not got the ball. I don't think that was a dig at Ronaldo not pressing, because bloody hell, Rashford didn't press at the weekend either. So I just think on the Ronaldo thing, I mean, I don't feel sorry for Ten Hag because he has my backing, but he was getting quite frustrated about the questions, and ultimately I think he's already explained it, and he did say that in the press conference. There was a question that came out from some journalists saying that it's confusing, your answer about Ronaldo, saying you didn't want to bring him on out of respect. I don't really understand it. And he said, I think you do understand it. And he wouldn't elaborate on that, Ten Hag, because ultimately, I think we do understand it. I think some people just want him to give a different answer. It's like Casemiro. Some people want him to give a different answer. He said Casemiro's not played because McTominay was playing in a winning team. You might not agree with it, but he's explained it. You can't keep asking Ten Hag why he's not picking Casemiro when he's told you. And you can't keep asking Ten Hag why he's not picking Ronaldo, why didn't bring Ronaldo on in the Manchester derby when he told you. Out of respect, I didn't want to bring a player like Cristiano Ronaldo on to play 20 minutes in a game that's dead. I didn't want to bring him on. I thought it was disrespectful. Whether you agree with it or not, he's told you. So all these bloody pundits or fans going, he has explained it. And it probably is quite frustrating to keep getting asked the same question in a different way, looking for a different answer. Daniel Luciano, thank you very much for your super chat. He says, perfect response, realistic without being defeatist. Ronaldo can't press if the whole team don't press, says Merv. Well, look, we've got a game tomorrow. He's going to go strong. And I'd say most of the players that play tomorrow can actually play on Sunday. The way I look at it is like this. When you play on Thursday night, yeah, and then when you play on a Sunday lunchtime, that's a really quick turnaround. That's the equivalent of playing Champions League football on Wednesday night and having a Premier League game on Saturday lunchtime. It's a really quick turnaround. But we're playing Thursday night, Sunday night. So that's like playing a Wednesday night Champions League game and then not playing till the evening on Saturday. So there is the opportunity to pick the same team on Thursday as you pick on Sunday. And I think Ten Hag's probably going to do it. I think obviously Varane will come back in for Sunday, but he won't play tomorrow. But when I did my preview yesterday, and you can check it out, I said there's going to be about 8 changes. Obviously, he's not going to do that. He's obviously gone with a different approach. And again, honesty, what he's going to do in that game is he's going to, instead of making loads of changes, he's going to go and give the team a chance that's going to play against Everton to gel. That's what he's going to do. He's going to go for a confidence boost. Instead of dropping players, he's going to go for a confidence boost. So instead of dropping Malacia, Delot, Martinez, McTominay, Eriksen, Bruno, Rashford, Sancho, instead of dropping those players, and some of them might not start tomorrow, he's actually going to bring a few in, probably Casemiro, Martial, maybe Ronaldo. Obviously, Lindelof will play instead of Varane because he's injured. And he's going to go for a bit of confidence. He's going to try and boost the team with confidence. It's sad because Ronaldo's mentality might have been exactly what we needed to win titles. Even his presence, rightly valued, could have got us results, says Sub. The Ronaldo situation will resolve itself. And also, we talk about all these changes tomorrow. I mean, maybe Fred will come into the team, I don't know. But Donny's not fit, Wan-Bissaka's not fit. So you've got to play Delot and you've got to play Bruno because Donny and Wan-Bissaka aren't fit. You've got to play Martinez because Maguire and Varane aren't fit. So straight away, all right, Malacia, sure, you could make a change there. And you can make a few changes in the striking options and Casemiro will play. But there's not loads of changes you can make, to be honest. Did you notice these journalists trying to get Ten Hag to basically say that we are crap? They really wanted a headline to throw some dirt on him, says Mario Franco. Well, look, I'm glad that you said that because that's very, very clear as well. The honeymoon period's over. And I don't disagree with it being over, but the bad side of the honeymoon being over is that I've always said this. You've got to be wary of this. He's lost 2 games in 7 Premier League games. He's lost 3 games in 7 Premier League games. 2 of those have been 4-0 down at half time. He's teetering on the edge. Those 4 wins in a row after 2 losses in a row got him back on track, and you could justify blip at the start. He steadied the ship. Man City gives that opportunity for people to start going, maybe he's not the right man. Now remember, I'm talking about journalists here. A lot of the journalists and the media didn't want Ten Hag. They wanted Pochettino. So we do have to keep our eyes and ears open to that. Because I predicted this in the summer. There will come a time when they go for Ten Hag because they didn't want Ten Hag in the first place. If he keeps winning, they can't do it. If he starts losing and the team start performing like they did last year, I mean, look, imagine if we don't win a game for the next 4. Imagine what our form's going to look like in the Premier League. We'll probably have lost more games than we've won. And then you'll hear people going, is it any better than it was under Rangnick or Ollie? And then you're in trouble. So the honeymoon period is over for Ten Hag. I think that's right. We've had a bad result at the weekend. And the players have completely down tools for another manager. But I don't think we're in the same position as we were under Ollie or Rangnick. And I do think that Ten Hag will end up being the right man. But we've got to be wary that he's going to face difficult questions. It's not going to be long before you get Monday Night Football or somebody of high profile picking his tactics apart, because the honeymoon's over. So that is going to happen. And I think Ten Hag needs to be wary of that, and I'm sure he will do. It happens with every manager. I think there's a period of grace where it's like he's a new manager, let's give him a bit of a break. But I think you don't get a lot of a break in the Premier League. You don't get a lot of break from the media. And I think he's going to start getting scrutinised a lot more now. Personally, I think it's a bit early. I think he's taken over the worst ever Premier League side I've seen from Manchester United. And I don't think he got the backing he probably would have liked in the summer. He got some backing, but there's still been left with a lot of players that I don't think are good enough. And I think it's going to be a roller coaster ride. But we as fans who support Ten Hag have also got to be wary that we are going to see, like we did with Mourinho, like we did with Solskjaer, like we did with Van Gaal, we will start to see over the coming weeks and months more and more negative articles about Ten Hag. Because ultimately, whether you're the manager of Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool, Man City, once you've been there for a couple of months, headlines need to be written. Is this the man that's going to get Man United back on top, or is he going to be another failure? And as soon as those journalists and media outlets and ex-players and etc. start to make their mind up, they'll make their mind up. If they don't think Ten Hag's going to be the right man, they're going to write articles about that, and that's all to come. That's just a normal process. You're not going to be in a honeymoon for ages. I think with the fans, it's different. Fans will stick with a manager for a lot longer. But the media will write what they're going to write. Of course they will. But look, it was a good interview from Ten Hag. I didn't like a lot of what Bruno said. I don't know what he's supposed to say when he doesn't have the leadership qualities of what we need. And I don't think anybody does. But I didn't like the whole we go again. We've just got to focus on us. If it's first, second, third, fourth, we've just got to do our best. That's not a Man United mentality. It needs to be better than that. It needs to be bigger than that. And you do need to focus on Man City because they are the best team and we want to be better than that. So, but it doesn't surprise me. I spent a show this morning talking about leadership. We don't have leaders. We don't have a strong mentality. That's why we keep getting thrashed. We need to work on that. I think Ten Hag's got it, and can he get those players to have it? Time says, I don't feel like we're heading in the right direction. I do think we're heading in the right direction. I just think some people think that right direction's going to be up. We're not Yaz. It's not the only way is up time. I think it could be like that. If you want to get there, we're not going to go up there straight away. I think we're going to be, it could be round in circles a bit and on the way up. It's going to be a slow build. It has to be, because we've got terrible owners. We've got really bad board. We've got players who aren't good enough, and I think it's going to take a long time. And the aim is to be able to. The first aim is to be competitive against teams like Man City and Liverpool. Now, we beat Liverpool at Old Trafford and we beat Arsenal at Old Trafford, but Man City annihilated us. So all the good results against Man City, against Liverpool and Arsenal disappear because the latest result is an annihilation from Man City. We've got to be consistent. I mean, that's the magic word for the last 10 years. We've got to consistently compete on the pitch with teams like Man City. That's what we've got to get to. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel, by the way. We are getting close to 1.5 million. So make sure you subscribe and share the video. Get involved, bottom right-hand corner. Back at 7 o'clock tonight, because I'm doing AC Milan Chelsea at 8 o'clock on That's Football. So 7 o'clock tonight. I'll speak to you all in a bit.